Another day, another drywall patch. Now this one right here was for $600. This was to insulate the wall, to hang the drywall, do a new piece of baseboard right there along the back end, and paint it with paint purchased by me. So here we go. Now always want to get the plastic down first. I know a lot of people just start getting at the patch and make a mess and vacuum it up later, but why not just put one piece of plastic down, you know? Catch all that mess up. This is gonna be pretty much from start to finish. The only thing I didn't get was me going to the store to get the piece of baseboard and get the paint from Sherwin-Williams. So all in all, it was just a couple hours. Lowe's was down the street, the paint store was right next to Lowe's, so this is why I always tell guys, you know, if you're gonna just do drywall repairs, that's fine, but if you can learn a little bit of baseboard and a little bit of paint, you can make some extra money, and people like that when you can do a little bit of everything, not just the drywall work. And to make this all go in one trip, I'm gonna be using a fan and a couple other things to, you know, just make things go a little bit quicker and get everything done quick and efficiently. So this is the backing that I use for the repairs. I got a 1x3 right there and a couple 1x2s. And they basically just want to put it anywhere on the edge where, you know, there's an open space where there's no stud there. Nothing for the drywall to secure to. So getting one on the right side, getting one on the left side, and then getting one up top, in the top left, which is this piece right here. I could have cut it back to the other side, but you know, whatever. Just put another piece in there, get it done quick, keep moving on. I also wanted to point out I didn't cut that piece of drywall back to the corner, so I didn't want to mess with the corner tape. Didn't want to mess with having a tape and float onto the other wall, putting a piece of tape in there. So I like to leave it like that, just put a 1x2 in there, bud the drywall up to that to float it out instead of having to get all into that other wall. Which also helps when you're going to be painting too, just in case the paint doesn't match, that way you don't get it on both walls. Now, being that I do this, or repairs like this every single day, you know, I do have a lot of just leftover drywall. And I just so happen to have one more piece in my truck to cover that patch. So if it looks a little dirty to you, that's why. But it still works. Don't be stressing on it. Sometimes the homeowners will see it and be like, oh my God, I want a fresh new piece of drywall. And I just tell them, it's all right, don't worry about it. Get the mud on there, get some paint on there, you'll never know. Only time I won't use it if there's a bunch of cracks or whatnot going through it. And with drywall here in Arizona being $18 a sheet, shoot, you might as well save the little pieces when you can. Now I'm just cutting around this box and the washer and dryer hookup like so, because I'm just gonna put one more piece at the top of the box that comes down and meets to that piece. So once you tape and float it, texture it, put that little cover on that goes around that hookup, it's all gonna be good. Make sure you get screws in all around it, where you put those 1x2s and 1x3s in, and where the studs are. Make sure everything's tight. Trim it up so it's tight. Screw it in. Keep moving on. This is for that last piece of drywall at the top. If you haven't learned how to use a tape measure and your knife to cut things, highly recommend it. Don't be one to, carry around that T-square everywhere just to cut little pieces of drywall. Remember, you gotta save that time where you can, and just save the space in your truck. Shoot. Now, for some reason, my phone, when I press record, didn't record me mixing the pan of mud, but this is 5-minute mud. This was my first coat of putting on. Basically mixed up that pan of 5-minute. Came in, threw it all over the place. Wanted them to basically leave enough on to where you don't see the mesh tape. But in areas where you think, where it was a little high maybe, or a little low. You just want to leave some mud in there so when you come back after you wash your pan, you just start scraping it like this and trying to make it smooth. Sometimes a patch this size, you can get it in one pass if you lay the 5-minute mud on there right. This box was a little crooked when they put it in there because of the straps, but it's alright. Once you put that cover on there, everything's fine. Now it looks pretty good for a first coat. But there's still some spots in here. I don't know if you can see it because the video sped up, but there's still some spots that need to get, coated on there a little bit more, just to cover some of the mesh tape and make it as smooth as possible. Here we go. It got me doing the second coat, or the second pan, so that's my 5-minute mud. That's what I like to use. I don't understand guys that'll mix up 20 for a patch like this. I think it's a waste of time. As you saw, it's about 20 steps from my truck to the patch, and it's such a small patch. If you mix it up and throw it on there, you should have enough time. If you know what you're doing, you should have enough time to throw on the 5-minute before it completely dries up on you. So this second coat here, it's almost just a tight pool, but just leaving a very little bit on there, trying to smooth out those high and low areas, cover a little bit of that mesh tape that was still showing through. Just smoothing it out, trying to make it look pretty. Even though I must say these customers were pretty, they were impressed, but they didn't really care because it was behind a washer and a dryer. But still, you want to, that this work is your reputation, it's your name on it. You still want to make it look good, even if it's being covered. That's what I tell anyone that comes to work for me. If you're there doing it, why not, try to make it look the best that you can. I always scrape off the mud, keep the mess on the plastic. I used to have a box out there in my truck, from the all-purpose or any kind of type of compound, and I would scrape the 5-minute off and into the box, but sometimes it would fall over or you know, you might miss the box, crumbles on the ground, all kinds of crap. So just keep it on the plastic. Don't mind the truck, it's usually not this dirty, I swear. I'll post in the next video, it'll be clean, don't worry about it. Now you see I just washed the pan, came back inside, and I could sponge and scrape. This is why I like 5 minutes. How could you not like it? Alright, I'm gonna speed it up a little bit. Look at that, baby. Ooh, that is smooth. Now, here's the texture mud. Always got a bucket mixed up with some mud that can be used for primarily what I do in Arizona, which is skip trowel. But you know, you could always switch it up for a knockdown, an orange peel, a stomp, whatever you got going on. So I kind of leave it mixed though perfectly for this skip. Now here we go with the skip. Some people start from the bottom, some people start from the top. All in all, I don't think it really matters on a patch like this. But you're basically just putting this mud on the edge of your knife here, and you're just skipping it down the wall. Barely holding the knife here, barely putting any pressure on it. It's almost like I'm gliding the knife across the wall. And I will be making a video on how I skip this kind of texture on here. It does take a little bit of practice, but once you get it down, I think it's all about pressure and mud consistency for this. Which I guess is kind of like most textures. When you're spraying a knockdown, you know, it's all about the pressure, all about the consistency, how thick, how wet it is. So you should keep on skipping. Trying to all go in the same direction, but after you skip it in one way, you can kind of move your knife over and flatten it out to flow with the rest of it. And this texture does, you know, hide quite a bit of imperfections, but that's still not like how I like to do things. If I could leave the patch looking as smooth as possible before I texture, that's what I'm gonna do. I have one guy that used to just try to skip over every edge. He would just leave the edges on the patches and skip over everything. Nah, make it smooth first, then skip your way. And that's it for the patch part. Now that's all textured out, what you want to do is get your fan. I always carry one of these with me in my truck. So you want to turn that puppy on, get the air moving, get it blowing. Make sure it's hitting the right direction, and then we'll move on out. Let's go get that paint match. So what you didn't see is at this time, I went to Sherwin-Williams to get the paint match from a piece I took from the wall, and I went to pick up the piece of baseboard for this section here. But what you always want to do when you come back, oh, and you can see it's pretty much dry. There's a couple areas that are a little wet, but that's just the 5-minute mud behind there, still setting in. So you want to go through, give it a light sand around the edge. I always do that on any textured patch that I have. But you want to go through, sand it on the edge just to help blend it in, because you are getting that, rough texture on top of the existing texture, your new texture on top of existing. So you do want to just give it a very light sand to help blend it in. This is Super Paint from Sherwin. It's kind of my go-to for stuff like this. I get it for about, I think it's $30 a gallon, give or take, something around there. So it is a paint and primer in one, and that's what I use for patches like this. Do a couple thick coats and you're good to go. Took about, 45 minutes or so to go get the paint match done and pick up the baseboard from Lowe's. And that whole time that fan was on here just drying it. And that's what you want. This is my little pack of rollers I get from Sherwin for patches like this. You don't need anything crazy, just need something to put the paint on the wall for something like this, So I get that big pack and I just kind of keep it in my truck for patches like this. Works pretty good. Now, like I said, you're gonna see me not paint this whole wall. Usually I would just paint the whole thing. The customers did not care. They didn't even care if I went up to the top of this section of the wall. But I at least wanted to make it, as even as possible. And I don't want to leave just a stopping point of the paint at the top of the patch when I can go up another foot and just take it up to the top right here. So at least if the paint's a little bit off, then, it still looks the best that it can look. And I leave the paint with the customer, so if they want to paint the rest of the wall at some point or use that gallon to paint the rest of the laundry room, they could do that too. And that's first coat. Now I'm gonna get that fan on there again, start drying it. Like I said, recommend keeping one of these with you. Now let's measure for that baseboard. I pretty much always keep moving on a job like this. There's so much, to do or just get ready for. Just keep on moving, keep on going. Now this one I happened to get lucky on. It was just a straight cut on each side, no 45 cut to meet in there tight, just a straight cut. Now usually I do use a speed square for this to keep my blade straight, but couldn't find it, and I just use my truck to help hold it straight. You know what I'm saying? I was gonna take this part out. Oh wait, well, not yet. So first, clean up all your mess. This is why I put that plastic down. Just ball it up real quick. Got the Drywall vacuum, Drywall nailer, all cordless. You want to suck all those crumbs and rocks out of there so you can shove that baseboard down in there as nice as possible. Trying to get it in there, but my cut was off. So just cutting a little bit off so I can get it in there nice and tight. Nope. Still too tight. Sometimes this happens. I just wanted to leave it in there so y'all know. Just, didn't get it right first try. It happens. This time got it right. Take the nailer. Nail it in there. Caulk it in. They did not want me to paint the baseboard. Like I said, didn't really care too much. That was behind the washer and dryer. So they said, don't worry about painting it. Just nail it and caulk it in for us. So that's what I did. And that's another one down. Hope you learned something. Took it with you. Pretty good match. They were actually way happier than I thought they would be when they saw everything. Got a good review out of it. Recommended me to their neighbor. And that's it. Off to the next one.